Welcome to TotalMix FX, the most powerful zero-latency monitoring mixer in the audio world. The first thing you should do after installing your RME audio interface is set up the control room section in TotalMix FX. This will group all your monitoring channels together, as well as setting up the relationships between channels so advanced functions like speaker switching, talkback, queuing, and front panel controls will work properly. First, decide which channels will connect to the monitoring system and headphones. In the bottom right section of TotalMix FX, click the Assign button, then hover on Main to see the available channels. If you connected your monitors to output channels 1 and 2, select AN12 here. Now do the same for phones. If you're using the built-in phones jack, it should be easy to find here labeled PH. If you have additional headphone outputs, you can assign up to 4 mixes as headphones. These will all receive the talkback signal when activated. Now that the relevant channel faders are grouped together, you can adjust the output level for each by raising or lowering the fader position. Once you've found the optimal level, you can set this value in the Options Settings menu as the recall level. Then, anytime you click the Recall button in Control Room, the fader will jump to this preset position. You can also set a dim value here in the Options Settings menu, and this level reduction can then be accessed with the Dim button. If you use 2 sets of monitors for comparison, you can set this up at the control room. So for instance, if the second monitor set is connected to Analog Out 3 and 4, select this in the Assign menu. Now a new Speaker B fader is moved into the control room, and you can alternate between Main and Speaker B with this button. Once you've calibrated the levels between the 2 monitor sets, activate Fader Link to keep relative levels the same. If you ever need to check which channels are assigned in the control room, click the Names button on the right side panel to show the real channel names. Let's take a look at the mixer interface. On the top row are the hardware input channels. Any signal connected to analog or digital inputs will show up here. The level meters are pre-fader, as these are showing the signal hitting the input. Note that the fader here does not control the level sent directly to your recording software. It's only controlling the level sent to your output for latency-free monitoring. Above the fader are mute and solo buttons. If you're using these, make sure the master mute and solo buttons are active over on the right side panel. Above these buttons is the pan knob, and below you get a numerical readout of the signal level. Click the tool icon on a channel to access options. At the top is your stereo button, allowing you to change between mono or stereo fader configuration. Below is the level control, where you can set the sensitivity of the analog input channels. Next is stereo width control, and below is the effects send for reverb and delay bus. The MS processing button allows you to monitor a mid-side input signal in true stereo, while capturing the mid-side audio in software. At the bottom are switches to flip the phase of the left and right channels. Input channels with mic preamps have some extras, such as the 48-volt phantom power and preamp gain controls. The INST button here switches the channel to instrument mode for use with a guitar or bass high Z input. The middle row of faders are software outputs. This is the signal coming out of the DAW or other audio software. These channels have some of the same options as the input row above. The bottom row faders are hardware output channels. Some new buttons are available here. There's a talkback button that will allow you to assign the channel to receive the talkback signal when active. There's also a loopback button that will send the signal present at the output back as an input signal, allowing you to record the submix or send one software's audio output to another software input. The solo buttons are replaced by Q buttons on the bottom row. Clicking Q on a channel will send the audio directly to the main output, allowing you to audition any output channel's audio. If you want the Q to send the audio to a phone's mix instead, you can set this up with the Assign button in the control room. Mixing in TotalMix FX is very simple and straightforward. The mixer allows you to combine input signal with the playback from software and monitor the audio with no added latency. Let's look at the presets first. Go to the Options menu and hover on Reset Mix. The first option, Straight Playback Mix to Main Out, will send all playback channels to their respective outputs and mix all playback channels to the main out. The next option, Straight Playback, is a direct one-to-one routing of playback channels to the respective outputs. Playback channels are not mixed together. We'll use straight playback for this demonstration. We have some audio playing in a multi-track software. The stereo output is on channel 1 and 2, and each track is set to a separate output channel as well. This will allow us to create a custom headphone mix. Starting with the main stereo output from software, we'll route this to the main output channels where the control room monitors are connected. In TotalMix, every routing starts on the bottom row. Click on the channel labeled Main in the bottom row. When this is selected, all the faders in the input row and playback row show the current routing for the main output. There's a mixer layer for every output channel, and you can click on any channel to quickly see all routings to this output and make any necessary changes. Back to the main output. Click on the channel strip, then pull up faders for any signal you want to route to this output. Here, we just want playback channels 1 and 2. Now, to create the headphone mix, click on the phone's 1 channel. In the middle row, rather than sending that stereo output from your DAW to the phones, we'll route the individual tracks and create a custom mix for the talent. With phones selected in the bottom row, move to the middle row and pull up faders for the tracks. You can click the Q button on phones 1 so you can hear the mix you're creating for phones. If you want to copy this mix to another output, just right-click, select Copy Mix, and then on the new channel, select Paste Mix. The main idea of TotalMix is to allow you to monitor input signal with no latency, so we can now mix in the live input signal with the existing tracks. Make sure you still have the correct output target selected in the bottom row, then pull up the input fader. If the musician needs more me in the mix, you can adjust the balance between the input and playback by pulling up the input faders and pulling down the playback faders. To take these mixing capabilities one step further, you can even assign custom names to channels in the mixer. Just double-click the name tag and type in the name. In the top right of TotalMix FX, the control panel has global buttons for mute, solo, and fader groups. Each input and playback channel in TotalMix has its own mute and solo buttons, but the global button needs to be active for these to work. Mutes, solos, and faders can be grouped together to work as a set. In order to create a fader group, first click on the Edit button on the right side panel. The buttons start flashing, so pick a slot to store the group. Now click on any faders that you want to join in the group. Notice they change color to reflect the grouping. Once you've selected all faders in a group, click Edit again to finish. Now if you move one fader in the group, all linked faders will move together in their relative positions. You can create up to 4 different fader groups per workspace. To make a new grouping, just click Edit again and select Slot 2. Click the faders you want to group and click Edit again to save. If you want to remove one of the groups you've made, click the Clear button, then select the slot for the group to be deleted. The procedure for creating channel groups and groups for mute or solo work the same way. TotalMix FX has 2 different view modes, the mixer, which is default, and a matrix view. You can switch between the modes in the function menu at the top of the screen or window. Alternately, you can hit the X key on your keyboard for the matrix, or the M key to switch back to mixer view. Let's take a look at the matrix now. The matrix is showing the exact same routings as the mixer, it's just laid out differently. The bottom row of the mixer, hardware outputs, is represented here by the vertical columns. The top row, hardware inputs, is represented by the top half of the horizontal rows. The bottom half of the rows here correspond to software output channels, or the middle row of the mixer. The matrix can be helpful to provide a quick overview of all routings and easily patch multiple channels. To create a routing in the matrix view, just click the cross point for the input or playback channel and the desired output. For instance, to route input 1 to phones out, just click the cross point of input 1 and phones 910. Now switch back to the mixer view, and we can see that the routing we just made in the matrix is represented here. If you have more than one RME interface connected, each unit has its own mixer. You can switch the unit with the dialog on the top right. Currently, there's a Fireface UFX and a Babyface attached. I can switch the mixer to show either unit. Alternately, I can open a new mixer window so I can see the mixers for both units at the same time. If you aren't using all the channels of your RME interface, the TotalMix window can be customized to hide any unused channels. Click on the Options menu and select Channel Layout. There are 3 panels here, one for inputs, the top row of the mixer, playback channels, the middle row of the mixer, and output channels, the bottom row. If you want to hide a channel from view, just click the channel, then select the Hide in Mixer Matrix checkbox. You can select multiple channels at one time the usual way, using Shift plus click for items in a series, or Control plus click, Command on Mac, to add single channels to the selection. If needed, you can also hide the channels only from MIDI controller or OSC remotes. Once you're done, click OK, and the selected channels are removed from the mixer. Over on the right side panel, you can save your layout as a preset, so it can be recalled at any time. In addition to the preset slots, there's 2 buttons above. All will show all channels, and Sub will show only the channels routed to the currently selected submix. In certain cases, your screen resolution may be larger or smaller than optimal for TotalMix. You can set the mixer to 2-row mode using the button on the right side, which moves the software playback row to the top. You can also collapse channels to meters only by clicking on the small arrow on the bottom right. Here you can also hold Control or Command when you click, and this will collapse all channels to the right. If you're using a high-resolution display, it may be beneficial to increase the size of the mixer. You can find the zoom options under the Window menu. The Snapshots section on the right side control panel allows you to store the current mixer settings for recall. Once you have a working routing, click the Store button, then select a slot for your mixer snapshot. You can store up to 8 individual mixer snapshots here. You can give each mix snapshot a useful name by clicking on the text section. Alternately, you can save the snapshot as a file. Click the File menu, then Save Snapshot As. This will allow you to keep a backup or load a snapshot on a different computer. In the TotalMix FX Preferences menu, you can select the option Do Not Load Main Volume Balance. This will keep the main fader position the same when you load a new snapshot and avoid level changes for your monitors. You can also save a workspace, which includes all the current routings, all 8 mixer snapshots, plus the visual elements like layout and mixer position. The workspace menu is called up with the W key, or alternately accessed from the File menu. You can save and recall up to 30 different workspaces here, and each one can be given a custom name. Of course, the workspaces can also be saved as a file for backup or portability. When using an RME interface with built-in effects, every input channel and output channel has its own EQ and dynamics settings. Click the EQ button on a channel to open the control panel for the 3-band parametric EQ. Switch it on with the button on the top left. You can start with the factory presets located here, or create your own EQ curve. Once you have it dialed in, you can store your settings as a custom preset. Dynamics works the same way. Click the D button on the channel strip to open Dynamics and switch it on. Factory presets and user presets are available. Over on the right side panel, you can see how much of the available DSP processing power is currently being used. By default, the EQ and Dynamics are not recorded. They're only in the monitoring path of TotalMix FX. If you'd like to record inputs with these effects applied, open the control panel for the interface and select EQ plus D for record. The reverb and delay effects are set up as a bus, using input sends and output returns. In the control strip, click Show Effects to open the panel. Turn on reverb or echo and select a factory preset or choose your own settings. Now go to the input channel and raise the effects send to feed the reverb bus. Go to the output channel where you want to hear the effect and raise the effects return. This can be accessed either with the smaller fader on the channel strip or the knob inside the settings panel. The reverb signal cannot be recorded directly as you can with EQ and Dynamics. If you wanted to record the output signal with reverb, use the Loopback feature in TotalMix FX. Loopback is a special and very useful feature in TotalMix FX. With Loopback, you can take output from one software program and send this back as an input signal for a different software. Or you can create a mix of input signals, playback signals, or both, and send this back as a stereo input for recording. It works just like plugging a cable from an output channel to an input channel, except it all happens inside TotalMix and therefore works completely transparent. Let's take a look at this in action. Click the AES Out channel in the bottom row and route some audio to this output. To activate Loopback on the output channel, click the tool icon to access settings. Next, click the Loopback button to activate. The signal present at the output is now sent to the corresponding input channel in software. Since we use the AES output, we would receive the input signal on AES in. Notice the TotalMix will not show the signal on the input row. These meters always show signal present at the actual input. Trim gains mode is activated by clicking the T button on a channel. After a click, all routings for this input are synchronized. Instead of changing only a single submix routing, the fader affects all the channel's active routings. For a better overview, the faders currently not visible are indicated by orange triangles beside the fader. When moving the fader, the triangles also move to the new position, showing the fader's new settings. The fader position is set to the highest routing gain of all routings to offer the best control. Fader position of the currently active submix is shown as a white triangle. Since all channel routings change simultaneous when trim is active, this mode basically has the same behavior as a trim pot on the input channel, affecting the signal before the mixer. That's how the function got its name. In the right side control panel under Show, the function Trim Gain can be globally switched on or off for all channels. Global trim mode is recommended when using TotalMix FX as a live mixing desk.